How are things going with the trade war and the taxes on other countries that we do business with? Have we made any deals yet with our main trade partners? How will tariffs change the way you spend your money every day? Are places that we shop at every day going to start showing us things that aren't on the shelves? In this movie, I give you the whole update. We'll also talk about how long it takes to make trade deals. Could this happen in a few weeks or months? Does this take a lot longer? I will also show you which goods will be most influenced by tariffs. You will notice this when you walk into shops and see shelves that are empty. It's possible that this will happen in the next few weeks. Let us hear what Bill Ackman has to say. He knows a lot about Trump and has more knowledge and updates about what's going on. I believe that inflation is mostly gone from the market. Okay, how much eggs cost? I believe that the cost of energy will continue to go down, and I think it's obviously great for the economy. What else am I supposed to say? So, what do you think about the idea that taxes might affect inflation? So, I think that if they are finally fixed, the prices of some goods will go up by a certain percentage. But it won't be like inflation that builds over time. It will be more like a one-time reset. From there on out, there won't be any real growth. And think about that as a background for when the Federal Reserve might start cutting rates near the end of the year. Do you think they should start cutting already? I think it makes sense to have a small cut pretty soon because, we got some early purchases that helped us in Q1 in case tariffs went into effect. The unknown that comes with, Liberation Day, if you will, the US GDP grew by about 2.6% very quickly in the fourth quarter of 2024. Quarter one, under the new Trump government because of the trade war, tariffs, and other things, for the United States, the GDP shrank, which means it went down by 0.3%. In other words, we were on track to have GDP growth of 3% in the first quarter. All of that went wrong because of the trade war that began in April. Also, just to set the scene here, a lot of people use the stock market to judge how the economy is doing. I know that many of us don't have money put in the stock market. The stock market had one of its worst Aprils since 1932. This isn't really a sign you should be looking at. And if you've heard of the Great Depression, that was right at the start in 1932. It began in 1929, and for many people, 1932 was a very, very hard year. And I hope we don't go through another Great Depression. The replacement has made many companies pause and wait to see what will happen, which will show in Q2. And so I think you could say that there is definitely a slowing economy, and it's now yes. The question that I think is important is whether or not the tariffs can be settled quickly, because I think that if we're still dealing with them, it will still be big news. After I ask you a question about tariffs, I know Joe has a question about Harvard that he wants to ask. Okay, fine. Back to the tariffs. What do you mean when you say it gets resolved? Do you think that the US government will get a lot of money from the high tariffs? Are we all blinking and saying, well, we're not going to have the tariffs we've been talking about all along because the market likes that, and that's kind of a resolution? What do people mean when they say resolved? Yes. I think Trump has brought trade imbalances and unfair business practices of our partners to the attention of everyone in the world. That's what happens when you put a 145% tax on goods coming from China and a really high tariff on goods coming from the rest of the world. Once that was done, he said, okay, we'll stop for 90 days on almost everyone except China because China responded. In other words, we're going to punish them. That made it possible for us to make deals with our main trade partners. As you may know, Scott Bisson says, look, we've got 18 countries, the top 18, European Union, etc. When we're working out deals, that's what we need to do with China too. My point was made with China, but a 145% tax against China means we're giving up taking care of business with China. Because of this, things will go badly for China, even worse than for us, but they will also go badly for the US, starting with small businesses, stay with me for a second, and others. I think that pausing on China is the right thing to do. Let's wait a little longer. We'll be busy here, so maybe 180 days. In other words, it keeps the risk to the US economy and small companies across the country stable. But China has a lot of reasons to make a deal now. Why? Why? Because of the shock of 145% and the chance of high taxes against China. Companies that make things in China and sell them in the US are all moving their supply lines to other places. The longer these unfair trade practices and taxes last against China, the longer it will take for them to make a deal. The longer they wait, the more likely it is that China will lose all those businesses. Let me finish what he was going to say. As things stand, I don't think things are ideal for the US right now because taxes from China are putting economic pressure on the US. You take a break for 180 days, the economic pressure goes away from us, but it stays on China because everyone is going. Companies are already leaving China because they don't know what will happen next. One company, Apple, is moving its whole business to India. A very small number of iPhones were made in India in 2020. Last year, 20% of all iPhones were made in India. 1 or 2 years from now, all iPhones will be made in India by 2026. Because a lot of this is industry work that won't have any jobs for workers, that will be terrible for China and its people. And if those people can't make any money, China is already going through a bit of a slump because some very large real estate companies in China have caused the market to lose 70-80% of its value. The mistreatment made everything worse, damaged the value of a home. People are already shocked by that. Add this to the mix. Gunpowder, kid, it's not good. Also, President Trump says he doesn't want to talk to President Xi of China. And that's the news as of May 4th. Japan is another one. They were turned down when they asked to be fully free from reciprocal tariffs. Japan asked for full immunity, but the US said no. Japan then said, hey, we don't want to pay any tariffs at all. The US said no, which was bad. Let's try to understand better. In the United States, how are trade talks going? Have we agreed on anything yet? What's going on? Let's go. In April 2025, Donald Trump put in place broad reciprocal tariffs between the US and other countries. These included a 10% tax on all imports and higher rates for key partners based on country and product. Most of the new tariffs were put on hold for 90 days until July 9, 2025. Trump stopped most of these countries for 90 days. Okay, putting together a trade deal must be hard. How long do you think it takes? Would you believe me if I told you it could take 1.5 to 3 years? Pay attention to this. It can take anywhere from a few months to many years to negotiate a trade deal based on how complicated the deal is. We're now talking about renegotiating the whole deal, right? Everything. And trade deals, it's not just bits and pieces, it's everything. On average, a trade deal takes between 1.5 and 3 years. How does the Trump administration think they will get 30 or 20 deals done in 90 days? It could take months or even years to make one deal. To help you understand what's going to happen, here are the taxes. Trump has stopped a lot of tariffs on our biggest trade partners until July. Then we'll have to wait and see what he does. As of July 9th, nothing has been fixed. All of these tariffs are put back on all of these things. Wow, that's going to be really bad for the US economy. Things are already moving very slowly because of this. There's no time to waste. We need to find this out right away. The US is in talks with a lot of countries, but most of the deals are likely to be small and focused on certain areas and goods. This means that the issues may not be solved all at once.